You booked it, episode 161. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me today on You Booked It, the #1 podcast where you learn how to create a successful entertainment career. Every episode is a masterclass on how to move your career forward. Do you want to take your career to the next level? As a listener of this podcast, I am offering you the opportunity to work one-on-one with me to build the foundation of what you need to create a successful career in today's world. Regardless if you're starting out or you've been doing this a while, I've got you covered. Look, when I entered this industry, I went to the #1 school in the USA for musical theater, graduated with an insane skill set, and zero clue about how to actually make my skills a career. I lost years of momentum because of it. Do not let this happen to you. That's why I created this podcast. That's why I'm making you this offer to coach with me. If you're interested, simply tap the link in the description of this episode and let's chat. Okay, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Daniel S. Harder. Are you ready for this, Daniel?
I sure am.
Brilliant. Daniel began dancing at Suitland High School Center for the Visual and Performing Arts in Maryland. He attended the Ailey Fordham BFA program in dance on full scholarship, and before graduating in 2009, performed in an international tour of West Side Story with Camille A. Brown and dancers. Daniel joined the ALVIN Ailey American Dance Theater in 2010, where he was featured in works by Alvin Ailey, Rennie Harris, Ronald K. Brown, Azure Barton, and Kyle Abram, to name a few. Recently, Mr. Harder made his Broadway debut in Disney's The Lion King. Daniel has had the privilege to work as a choreographer's assistant with powerhouses including Debbie Allen and Christopher L. Huggins, and also teaches masterclasses at high schools and universities in the U.S. and abroad. Daniel, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Fill in the gaps, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry.
Absolutely. I grew up in Bowie, Maryland, and went to a performing arts high school there, and ended up finding myself making my way to New York. And I've lived here for the last 15 years, having worked with different concert dance companies, as well as making my Broadway debut. And I am a professional dancer, a teacher, an assistant, coach. I like to try to navigate as many different avenues as I possibly can within the dance and arts industry. So, yeah.
Very cool. Let's dive into this first section here. And Daniel, look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
Well, a mantra that I discovered, I don't know how many years ago, but I have adopted it to my own life and to my career, is to never hope for it more than you're willing to work for it.
Oh, that's so good. I've not heard that one on the podcast before. Can you expand on that a bit, on how you've worked that into your career?
Absolutely. I think with the many highs and lows, trials and tribulations, obstacles and challenges that we all can face as performing artists, I think it's important to remember that anything worth having is worth working hard for. So that's really something that I've tried to remind myself. That particular mantra definitely keeps that at the forefront of my mind, that even with the unforeseen circumstances or obstacles that may come my way, to remember that as long as I am steadfast and continue to work hard and be diligent about the level of success and excellence that I'm trying to achieve, that I can keep moving forward.
Well said. Yeah, everyone is always looking for a shortcut. We all want the expedited way to all the successes and goals that we want to achieve. But at the end of the day, nothing beats hard work and consistent hard work, right?
Indeed. I know there's another quote that I heard from, of course, acclaimed actress and all around star Jennifer Lewis. And I love it because she says, the elevator to success is broken. Take the stairs. You know, you have to put in the work.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. And that's also, I think, why it's so important to find things that you're passionate about. Find
Absolutely.
things. Otherwise, it's easy to get to burnout. It's easy because it does take a long time. It does take a lot of work, and you'll have highs and lows that entire journey. And it has to be based on something that you can keep going through,
Definitely.
even when it's tough.
Definitely. And I think if 2020 and the many different obstacles that it has thrown our country and the world's way reignites that idea of you have to keep pushing forward. You have to keep working hard in order to get to the other side.
For sure. I was watching a YouTube video the other day, and a guy was trying to explain this kind of concept. He wasn't talking about performing, he was talking about business and people creating businesses. But I think the concept still rings quite true for us entertainers. And he said, look, find something that if in 10 years' time, you could go, I did that. And if in 10 years' time, you could still see yourself doing that thing. And even if it didn't accomplish all of the wildest dreams that you could fantasize about, if you could, in 10 years' time, still be happy with just doing what you're doing the work, then you found your thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's what makes artists so successful. It's not just necessarily the accolades or the applause or the other things that might come along, the other perks that may come along with our particular career. It is the assurance of self that your passion is worth exploring and worth pursuing.
Yes, absolutely. And let's dig into this next section here. And Daniel, of course, you are an entertainer. I'm an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry, like you're having now, takes a lot of dedication and hard work, like we were just talking about. And of course, yes, there is an outrageous amount of fun and excitement doing what we do. There are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
There have been many, but to name one, I think a failure of mine that actually had a great impact on my journey was I was in college in the Ailey Fordham BFA program in my senior year, and I had been quite successful throughout my time in the school. I was in a lot of the workshops. I was getting to work with the who's who of the concert dance world, even just as a student in the school. And so it was
Wow.
assumed that when I auditioned for the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, or as we affectionately refer to it in the school as the main company, because of course there's the main company and then there's Ailey 2, which is the junior company. But I was invited to audition for the main company, and I would say I kind of bit into the hype a little bit that everybody was sending my way. And I auditioned for the company, and I made it to the end of the audition. I felt really great about my performance, and my number wasn't called. And I remember leaving the room, not necessarily feeling defeated, but just almost dumbfounded because I had allowed myself to buy into this idea of now's my time, but it actually wasn't. And that really taught me to embrace the moments as they come and to not, it's okay to have a vision and to have goals, but to also be open to the possibilities of what if or when things don't happen. And out of that, I was able to work with the second company, Ailey 2, and I gained some of the best tutelage and guidance from then artistic director Sylvia Waters, and really got to cement my foundation for what it meant to be a professional in this industry. And without her guidance, who knows if I would have been ready to step into the Ailey company when I eventually did. But that setback actually set me up for what was to come, which was great.
That setback set you up. Love how you said that. And there are so many factors that we sometimes take for granted and unfairly take for granted. Or egotistically take for granted even sometimes. And we have to be careful with that and to just, like you said, be present. That you learned that lesson to be present, do the work. Because clearly, you eventually, of course, went into the Ailey company, the main company, right?
Mm-hmm.
But clearly they saw something. They say, you know what? I think we need to. They probably thought we need to help develop him a bit more, and they put you in the Ailey 2 company. And like you said, you grew so much,
Absolutely.
and it cemented your foundation. And it's one of those things that you don't know what you don't know, right?
Indeed.
And I can imagine. I'm going to assume, and tell me if I'm incorrect or not, that now you're looking back hindsight on that experience, and you go, you know what? Ailey 2 was the perfect place for me to be, so that you were ready and prepared for the main company when that came.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. I would not trade that experience for anything. Stepping into a large organization that is rooted in such a strong legacy and so much history, I was able to gain so much insight and so much information from Miss Sylvia Waters' guidance and tutelage that it made the transition into the main company a lot easier. You're already a a small fish in a very big pond. So she almost, helped me figure out how to navigate those waters, not just what I did on stage, but also what it means to be a professional off stage as well.
Yeah, and that is so much part of it as well. That a lot of us like to look at the outside image, the people on stage, and how you celebrate the accolade, you celebrate the spotlights.
Hmm.
And it takes a lot of work. There's a lot of behind the scenes work that goes into it, the consistency, the little things every single day that allow you to be in those spotlights.
Indeed. And I think, as you mentioned earlier, it just reminds you to be present in every moment and to take full advantage of the moment, allowing yourself to be open to the unexpected, but also allowing yourself to receive exactly what is for you in that particular time.
Yes, for sure. Thank you for sharing that story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and speaking of some spotlights, let's talk about your spotlight moment. That one time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living, or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about that.
I'm only laughing because I don't have probably a similar story to many. I didn't start training in dance until I was 15 years old. But
Hmm.
I knew prior to that I wanted to be a performer. And my aha moment, if you will, I was actually 9 years old. And I tell people all the time, I call myself a student of music videos because I studied and emulated Michael and Janet Jackson and learned all the
Yeah.
choreography, still know it to this day. But I begged my mother at the age of 9 to take me to see Janet Jackson for my birthday. And I was already a big fan, but of course, it was my first time seeing a live performance of hers. And at the end of the concert, I looked at my mother and I said, I know what I want to be when I grow up. And, like all supportive parents, she was like, what's that? And I said, I'm going to be a professional dancer. And she just looked at me and was like, okay, thinking all kids have dreams. And of course, I was still on a high from the incredible performance I had just witnessed. But I
Yeah.
didn't realize that one particular moment actually lit the torch that led me to explore this really blessed career that I've been able to have.
Beautiful. Yes. I really like that story. You should also have a listen of Teresa Espinosa's interview she's on the show a couple of days before you. Have a listen with her because she won an Emmy as a contributing choreographer on the Velvet Rope tour.
Yes,
And it's a great interview. So have a listen to that thing. I think you would really enjoy that one.
I definitely will. And you're right. She was one of the dancers that I got to see during the Velvet Rope tour, which was the concert that I went to. And
Oh, very
so
cool.
she's just someone I've always admired, would love to work with one day, but also her insight and her generosity as an artist is just incredible. So I will definitely take a listen.
Yes, absolutely. And let's piggyback on that story real quick and talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. What was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
I will say my favorite is probably my most current booked it moment, which was finding out that I had been asked to join Disney's The Lion King.
Yeah.
So the Ailey Company has two seasons, an annual season in December, 5 week annual season, and of course, there's a smaller 2 week season during the summer. And so we had finished our summer season at Lincoln Center, and we actually had some time off. So I was sitting on my couch, enjoying being at home and finally having a chance to rest. And I get an email saying that there are emergency auditions happening to replace a few of the ensemble members in The Lion King. And was I interested?
Whoa, cool.
So I, of course, was taken aback because I had auditioned for The Lion King prior to, but not realizing that somehow I guess I was still within the perspective or the periphery of the casting directors and the Disney company. So I go to the audition, and of course, I'm excited, nervous, anxious, because Broadway has always been something that I've wanted to pursue. I started my first real professional experiences were working with Debbie Allen at the Kennedy Center. So she had already ignited that bug within me. So here,
Mm.
this opportunity was finally presenting itself. And I auditioned, and the audition probably lasted, I would say, a good 4 to 5 hours of just dancing. This is before we even get to the singing part.
Right.
And cuts are being made, and I'm there till the end. And finally, I go back in to sing. And I remember the casting director asking me, "What is your situation with Ailey?" And I said, "Well," I said, "the faster that I know if there's a new opportunity being presented to me, the faster I can make a seamless transition happen for all parties involved." That was kind of
Right.
how I tried to be very slick about saying, "Hey, if you let me know,
Book me now.
I can do this." And probably a day or two later, I was told that I was being given an official offer. And
Oh,
it was probably the most unexpected but thrilling time in my life because I had been with the Ailey Company for 10 years and I was looking for some sort of change, still wanting to dance, still wanting to perform, still excited about sharing my gifts. And the universe just pushed this experience and this opportunity in front of me. And the fact that I was able to realize another dream of mine really just tugged at my heartstrings and made me so humbled, but also so grateful for that to be happening to me.
ah, that's such a great story. And I think it's really good to note you were in that audition and you were clear with them. You know,
Yes.
I think it can be very awkward, maybe not awkward, but overwhelming to have them ask, what's your situation with Ailey, right? Or whatever that other project might be, if you're in another show, if you're in an experience like this.
Hmm.
And remember that the casting directors, they simply want to know. You don't need to make things up or just say, I'm 100% available for you if you're really not,
Exactly.
right? Is to be very clear because at this point, it's also business, isn't it? And you have to
Indeed.
think of it that way in the same, and you have to respect it as that. And no one's going to be offended either way, but to be very clear and to just be honest with what the situation is. And that's completely fine. And that's what everyone wants from you at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I think transparency is something that all of us appreciate and respect. And I think if you are in a position where somebody is inquiring about your availability, speaking of particular moments like this, you've already piqued their interest. So I
Mm,
think being as clear and concise as possible about what your reality is and how you are able to or not able to transition is appreciated, because it doesn't mean that, again, going back to my failure and not getting into the Ailey company at first, you could be setting yourself up for another opportunity. These casting directors, choreographers, all of these people in the room have their hands in many different pots. And so even if it's not that particular moment, it doesn't mean that they might not see you for something else. So being clear,
exactly right.
being transparent is welcomed, because it lets them know, where you stand and how you're wanting to or able to move forward in your journey.
Yes, and that you're a professional.
Absolutely.
Yes, great. And let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And it's a weird time, right? We're amidst this global pandemic. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
I've been very fortunate during this time to really continue to fall into different opportunities. I've, like many, am now furloughed employee of Disney. And still, different opportunities have come my way. I've been able to work with a former colleague, dancer and choreographer, Hope Boykin. And I worked on two projects with her, one for the Kennedy Center Dance Lab, one for the 92nd Street Y. I also participated in a project with Broadway for Biden and got to dance with so many wonderful performers in Times Square in support of now President-elect Biden. And most recently, I actually performed last night in a freelance project with a choreographer here in New York City. Roderick George is his name. And we presented a virtual performance of his work entitled Fleshless Beast, which was really great for me because I got to step back into my concert dance shoes,
Mm,
and we learned a 27-minute excerpt of his work, which is probably about an hour long. It's an evening length's work, and learned this ballet in 2 to 3 weeks, and then got to present it on a digital platform so that so many other people could enjoy it. It's been nice to still have the opportunity to explore my gifts and explore my passion and my creativity, but to examine where the world is going and where the arts are going, I think moments like what I experienced last night are going to become more prevalent. I think artists are the most resilient individuals on the earth. Maybe I'm a little biased, but that's fine. But I think that we are going to find and create avenues for us to continue to survive and thrive. The world stopped and is still trying to figure out this new normal with the COVID-19 virus. And yet the arts kept the heartbeat of the world going. And so I think that artists now are really just trying to figure out these new ways, these innovative ways to continue providing those gifts to the world. And I'm excited to see what people come up with, what I come up with.
yeah, love your insight. It is really cool, I think, what is happening with this digitization of our industry, of specifically the live performance part of the industry. Clearly, we've had movies and television for a long time, right?
Yes.
But making that transition in, I don't know if you could ever replace being in a theater in person with other people, sharing that energy in that space. But I think that all of this technology is going to only lift up and just make our entire industry stronger and better, because more people are going to get exposed to this, to the different art forms and the content.
Hmm.
We're going to be able to audition and see more talent, the casting directors and things, for their various projects versus only having to be in New York or only having to be in LA. And even from a financial producer side of things, it's also a potential way to increase revenue for live performances. You can do both. So it's going to be really interesting. I think there's going to be a massive boom as well. I'm very positive about what's happening.
Absolutely. And if you think about it, technology is paramount to our evolution these days. So we've had to redefine what it means to connect. And so I mentioned yesterday we had a Q&A for our after the performance of Fleshless Beast. And I mentioned it is challenging to think about presenting art with no audience, that kind of visceral connection that we're able to have. But then you also think about the proverbial fourth wall that we as performers try to maintain in order to be authentic to the environment or the space that's being created on stage.
Right.
And so not having that audience last night actually allowed us as performers to connect in a much deeper way. So it's just,
very
we're all
interesting.
redefining what this means. And so that's, like you said, I'm excited to see the different ways that artists are going to be able to present themselves. Those that are interested in producing art are going to be able to see the talent, cultivate the talent. It's gonna be great.
For sure. And it is time to move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, first question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
Money. The challenge of getting paid to really do what it is that you love to do.
And it is possible, isn't it?
It is possible, yes.
And the second question, what is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
To remember why I started down this journey, never losing sight of that passion.
Third question, what is something that is working for you right now? Or, if you'd like to go pre-COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
My network, my connections definitely have kept me involved in the arts in ways that I couldn't have even imagined.
Yes, network is everything, and relationships are everything in this industry, especially for creating longevity.
Yes, yes, indeed.
And the fourth question, what is your best resource? Whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, maybe a podcast or piece of technology that you found is helping your career right now.
I can't pick one, but I am a YouTube junkie. And so I study everyone. I remember having to go to the library to see things. And so now that everything is online, I spend hours studying past performances, watching documentaries, you name it.
Beautiful. And the fifth question, if you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently, or would you keep it the same?
I would not change a thing. It's been a wonderful, wonderful journey, but also the learning experiences are really what make my career so special to me.
And the last question, what is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry you'd like to leave with our listeners?
I'm going to go back to my mantra. Never hope for it more than you're willing to work for it. Marry that passion with your dedication and your discipline and your commitment, and you can achieve anything.
So well said. And to wrap up this interview, Daniel, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Nothing to promote at the time, I guess, except myself. But I can be found at thedanielharder.com. And I can be found on Instagram at theonlydanielharder.
Beautiful. And for everyone listening out there, I have put the links to everything Daniel just said into the description of this episode so you can easily connect with him. And also, be sure to share this podcast with your fellow entertainers, coaches, teachers, and art and entertainment educators, and anyone you know aspiring to create a career in the entertainment industry. You Booked It is the #1 resource of expertise on how to actually create a successful career in this crazy, wild, exciting industry. It is integral to helping them succeed and helping you create a better, more fulfilling career. Daniel, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so glad we got connected. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't miss an episode. Every guest drops more value and insight than any other resource out there. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a rating and review. Also, be sure to head over to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you advance your entertainment career. All the best to you.